Have you ever wanted to start reading fantasy, but don't know where to start? I've had a few friends ask me about this, and so I thought I'd make a video on my suggestions on where to start, especially with what the fantasy coming out at the minute. There's quite a lot, and so making that decision can be a bit difficult. So I thought I'd give my opinion on where to start, where to pick, what things to pick up along the way, and how to expand on the fantasy you read. There are a lot of different points I have to start from because, like I said, there's a lot of different fantasy coming out at the minute. Different genres, different types, sub-genres to be honest. And so I'm going to start off with modern fantasy. And for this one, this is what's been written at the minute, a kind of encapsulation of fantasy in 2020. I say 2020, this one came out before, but anyway, for this pick I'm going to go for the Mistborn series. And it's written by Brandon Sanderson, and he, at the minute, is one of the best fantasy writers, in my opinion. He's amazing. And this series acts as a great starting point for not only modern fantasy, but Sanderson's writing as a whole, and he will come into play later down the line. I will talk about more of his books because they are phenomenal. But anyway, let me get into my second pick. For the classic fantasy route, I recommend going for the classic, obvious route, which is The Lord of the Rings. And with this, I'm gonna put a big disclaimer on this. I do not recommend going into this first. The Lord of the Rings series is one of these that is like a staple of fantasy, and so many people will recommend it, and I say it is the best fantasy series ever. You can't question it. But the writing style and prose has become quite outdated, and so for a new reader coming into fantasy, I do not recommend picking this up first. I recommend getting a few other series, mainly like I said, Mistborn is a good one. A bit more modern fantasy under your belt first before you pick up this one, because it's quite difficult to get through it in terms of the writing style, but it is still one that you need to read at some point. So I would recommend going with like Mistborn or some of the other recommendations I'm going to talk about before you pick up Lord of the Rings, but it is one that you need to read. If you want to dive into grim dark fantasy because of like the whole popularity and great success of Game of Thrones, there is a few ones I recommend here. I don't recommend going in straight with the A Song of Ice and Fire series, the Game of Thrones series. Don't go for that first, because it's a big series, a lot of words, and if you're starting fantasy, I don't know how much you've been reading, but quite a lot of other series are very short, and so this one being such big in length, I don't recommend going for that first. I'm actually going to recommend a series, the Gentleman Bastard series, or with the first one, which is The Lies of Locke Moora. This one at the minute is a trilogy. I think they're releasing more, I'm not too sure. But it's a great series in terms of characters, and the dynamic and relationship between these characters is some of the best, and I really enjoy it. Another series I can't help but not recommend is The Kingkiller Chronicles. Starts off with Name of the Wind. It's told in such an interesting way for fantasy, and I can't give more away without giving away spoilers, but this one is brilliant in terms of the writing style. It's a bit more complex than Mistborn. That's not saying Mistborn is bad, it's just more accessible, and so I'd recommend reading maybe some other fantasy first and then coming to this one. But as I said, it is it's got a first, second, and then like a 2.5, or was it like a 1.5? I can't remember. But there's 3 out at the minute, and so it's not like a massive series like a Song of Ice and Fire. So you can get away with reading this one in a shorter amount of time and get another series under your belt. Before I give my last couple of recommendations, make sure to like the video if you're enjoying it, and if you like this kind of content, make sure to subscribe and turn notifications on so you see when I next post content. Once you've read some of the other recommendations, and you want to sink your teeth into some bigger, more epic fantasy, there are a few I'd have to recommend. First of these, I'd have to recommend, if we're continuing with the grim dark themes, to go for a Song of Ice and Fire series. But make sure you're ready to dive in with a very big and epic scale series that's a lot of words, a lot of characters, and like I said, recommend reading some of the other stuff first and then coming to this one. Another kind of recommendation along similar lines, it's not as heavy in terms of grim dark themes, but it's still along those lines, and that is the series I'm reading at the minute, which is Lightbringer. That's also a brilliant one. So far, I'm on book 3, and I would recommend it, and I've heard it just is steadily getting better and better and better, so I do recommend it. It's got one of the best magic systems, especially in the concept. Utilization can fall a bit flat sometimes, but the whole idea of colour being the magic system is phenomenal. I really enjoy it. And for the next pick I'd have to go for, and my final recommendation, would have to be Sanderson's big epic series, The Stormlight Archives. This starts with The Way of Kings, you've got The Word of Radiance, Oathbringer, and you've now got Rhythm of War coming out in November. And each book is around 400,000 words, which is epic fantasy. And I can't really go for any negatives about this. The only issue is that it's a big series, so you have to be ready to put some time and work into getting through this. But the characters are amazing, the world building is excellent, and the plot is also just brilliant. I'm currently listening to the audiobooks of them because they're such long books. I'm reading actual books. I'm reading Lightbringer at the minute, but I'm also listening to the Stormlight Archives, and with the voices of Michael Kramer and Kate Redding, I think they are top quality. I do recommend picking up the audiobooks if you don't feel you can sit down and read through 1,500 pages. I say that was my final recommendation. If you've got through all this and you've read all these, I recommend putting some time into reading the Wheel of Time series. There's not really much I can say about this because I've only read 2 of them, but I've heard great reviews, and if you've read all these, go for it, read that one. But it is 14 books, and they're like, I can't remember, 600, 700 pages each, so there is a lot. But if you've read all the others, you'll be able to handle that, no problem at all. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if I've given you any good suggestions or anything, let me know down in the comment section down below. What are you reading at the minute? If you've enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe, and if you want to speak to me or any others about the books or about the videos or anything like that, we've got a Discord channel. I'll leave a link for that in the description down below, and I'll also leave the books down there as well. Below me is a subscribe link, go click on that, and over there will be a video to continue watching my content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye!